I'm Dipash Garg here explaining a task 2.2c of unit SIT210. In this video, I am going to be explaining the code written so as to blink the built-in LED light of an Arduino microcontroller according to the Morse code input that was manually converted from English alphabets. The prerequisites of the task include basic knowledge of C++, how to use Arduino Nano, and how to write a sketch accordingly. So firstly, what's Morse code? It is a code that assigned a set of dots and dashes to each letter of the English alphabet, allowing for simple transmission of complex messages across telegraph lines. Now let's talk about the uses of the Morse code in modern world. Morse code is widely recognized even if it is not as widely as it once was. Morse code is still popular among amateur radio enthusiasts, although proficiency in Morse code is no longer a requirement to obtain your amateur radio license. Morse code is most prevalent in aviation and aeronautical fields since radio navigational aids such as VORs and NDBs still identify in Morse code. The US Navy and Coast Guard still use signal lamps to communicate via Morse code. Morse code has also been used as an alternative form of communication for people with disabilities or whom have their abilities to communicate impaired by stroke, heart attack, or paralysis. There have been several cases where individuals have been able to use their eyelids to communicate in Morse code by using a several series of long and quick blinks to represent their dots and dashes. The hardware requirements for this setup would only include a microcontroller, which is an Arduino Nano 33 IoT in this case, a USB A to micro USB B cable, and a device to upload sketch, which would be a laptop in this case. Here's how our setup would look like after making all the required connections. Now I am only going to do the explanation part of the code along with this output. Now firstly, let's jump to the explanation of the code. So in this sketch, we firstly enter the void setup in which we use a predefined function pin mode which is used to initialize the pins of the microcontroller, which in this case will be the built-in LED. We could also replace this by 13 as it is the same thing. Now as we are getting output from our LED, so we wrote here output. So now we enter void loop. In this we create an array of characters which allows us to move on to each character stored in it, unlike strings. In this array, the name which we created from English to Morse code was stored. Now, a variable size is created in which the calculated size of the array would be stored. As we can see here, the calculation is done so as to calculate the size of the array. Now moving on, a for loop was created which helps us to iterate throughout the array. In this for loop, three conditions were given. Each condition corresponds to a certain element in the array. These conditions consist if the element is a dot or a dash or a space. Each the delay in between the LEDs is given according to each element of the array. Now there is an alternate for this sketch which would be basically creating functions for each element and calling them in void loop according to the Morse code. But that would be too much inconvenient. So that is it for the code. Let's move on to the demonstration part. For the reference of my code explained in this video, you can visit the GitHub link provided in the description. So that is it for the video. Thanks for watching.